Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Good morning or good afternoon, and welcome everybody. It's wonderful to have everyone here, and appropriately, I think that we need to say Happy New Year. I think that we're so fortunate to be in this building, and as I'm sitting here looking around, I am just delighted that we're able to have our meeting here today, and I hope that we can continue to have them here. So anyway, I'll call this meeting to order, and would you all please rise for the pledge to our flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And so far as the roll call is concerned, let's start with you.
Becky
Becky.
Guidry, I am here.
Becky's here. Betty Simpson.
Barbara Hill.
Joy Sullivan.
I'm Amy Baker, Town Clerk.
I'm Nancy Stuprich, and I'm an attorney with the Vos Law Firm who serves as the town attorney for the town of Fort Myers Beach. Madam Chair, I will go ahead and add that I understand that we do have an individual a member who would like to participate virtually. And if that is the case, Florida law, by virtue of several Attorney General opinions, have opined that it is permissible to allow someone to participate virtually if there is physically present a quorum. And you do have a quorum physically present.
Exactly.
And in order to allow the individual to participate, it would require a motion by this board to allow that participation, and this is for extraordinary circumstances.
Okay, and this would be for John to be able to vote.
Yes, ma'am. So it would require a motion by one of the members that is present to be seconded and then voted upon.
I make the motion that we allow John to participate as a voting member of Bay Oaks. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And will we be doing that each time? So long as we have a
Yes,
quorum?
in the event you do have someone who wishes or needs to participate remotely, that is the process to be followed.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. So that takes care of that, and of course our town staff and our Karen Woodson, who is our town council liaison, and we really appreciate, I know that your schedule is very busy, and we really appreciate your participation with us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that brings us to item 4, the approval of the minutes. And I saw that October 4th is on there again. I don't know how many times we need to.
Yeah, we did not have a quorum last time, therefore we could not approve the minutes for October 4th. So we do need to now approve them officially with a quorum.
Okay,
a moot
so may I have a motion for approval of the October 4th minutes? Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the October minutes. This is Joy Sullivan.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Becky Guidry.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the November 1st minutes. And may I have a motion for approval of the November 1 minutes?
I so move.
Okay, we have a motion by Barbara Hill, and do we have a second?
Joy Sullivan, seconds.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously again. So thank you. All right, we have our town attorney, and we're going to be talking about sunshine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the purposes of record keeping, I think we had public comment next, but seeing no one is there, I guess I am next.
Well, yeah. Sometimes we call on the public comment, but seeing none, I felt that I was safe in moving on.
Okay, no problem. Again, my name is Nancy Stuparich, and I previously introduced myself. You have to bear with me. I am getting over a cold. I am not contagious, according to my doctor.
It's difficult
So
to
if I
understand
need
you.
to,
Can we-
if I need to pause for a moment and grab a sip of water or something, just indulge me in that. Thank you for having me here today. We're going to talk briefly about the Sunshine Law, public records, and how it may impact you as a member of this advisory board. You may wonder, why does the Sunshine Law apply to me? Because it's basically, in Florida law, it does cover not only elected officials, but appointed members of bodies. The town council at their meeting on November the 9th had a agenda item, which was a huge PowerPoint presentation that we did, and it covered quite a number of items related mostly to elected officials. However, a lot of them do apply also to advisory boards. So I'm going to be speaking from that PowerPoint presentation outline. And if you are interested in seeing the full version of it, it is available online, and that was the November 9th meeting. So talking about, does anybody know anything about the Sunshine Law? Those of you? Okay. Go ahead and tell me what your understanding of it is. Just,
Well, in the interest of full transparency, because obviously every elected and appointed official. I'm sorry. Yes, keep forgetting there's a microphone here. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. In the interest of full transparency, the requirement of the Sunshine Law is that all appointed and elected officials are required to not discuss a business with any other person on that that currently serves on that particular board. So whether that's an advisory board member or it is the town council itself, that is to prevent any confusion as to how business is conducted.
very good summary. Very, very good. So I am going to jump off of that and give you just a little bit more details about some of the things that maybe go on behind the scenes that you may not really be aware of. Again, as she indicated, it's the opportunity for the public to know what is going on in my local government, whether, again, it's appointed or a elected body. So this provides the right of access to the public. And as you see, we have accommodations here to allow the public to appear, to witness what we are doing today. And also there's the videotape if you were unable to make it, to kind of see how we operate. So in general, we could say that whenever there are official acts are being discussed or it's public business, those are the ones that have to be open to the public and visible. So there must be also reasonable notice. So even though we're meeting in this beautiful room with accessibility to the public, if it isn't properly noticed, it really doesn't achieve the policy that we're trying to achieve. And Amy, your town clerk, she's responsible for making sure that all public meetings are correctly noticed. And if you observe some of our town council meetings or our LPA meetings, we generally ask at the beginning, Amy, have all the items been properly advertised? And she'll say yes or no, and hopefully we're able to move on. In addition, yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. With regard to public notice, what kind, is that a 7-day notice, a 10-day notice? What is the What is the deadline? In other words, if
It's
minutes or an
reasonable
agenda-
notice, reasonable under the circumstances. A minimum is like 48 hours, because sometimes we might have to call a special meeting if there's some major event that's occurring, and we need to assemble the town council or to assemble a particular board. It has to be reasonable under the circumstances. Now, if it's not really an emergency, giving 48 hours is probably not really good practice. And you would really want to give as much notice as possible, because the intent is to keep the proceeding open to the public and allow them to participate as they would like. Amy, I'm going to pick on you a little bit today. What has been your practice?
We generally try and get an agenda out for the advisory committees 7 days prior to the meeting. 95% of the time that happens. Sometimes circumstances arise that it may be a couple days later than that, but
And it's also on the website, right? You're adding it to the calendar?
yeah, it's on our town's website calendar. We blast them out on social media now too, so.
And
So we would
Nate-
get a notice 7 days in advance.
Well, the public would. It's
The
more than-
public
we
would, yes.
Obviously, yeah.
That's what we try and get an agenda out 7 days in advance.
Okay.
But in an
For the
emergency
committees.
situation, we can go with reasonable notice. You know, if we have to gather the council members together for some unfortunate situation that's occurred. Okay?
Thank
Jeff,
you.
you had a question?
Well, we were just talking yesterday a little bit about, agendas, and we try to get them out in advance, but for an advisory board, we don't necessarily have to get the agenda out, is that correct? We just
Yeah,
have to-
I don't-
We just have to witness, or,
I don't think that
schedule the
there's a
meeting?
hard, fast rule, but typically if there's material that's going to be discussed,
Mm-hmm.
you really want to get it out as early as possible, so that way the members have enough time to review it and the discussion can be meaningful
yes.
at the meeting. So the third requirement, so first of all, open to the public, right? Reasonable notice, and the next thing is something that you guys do at every meeting, and you may not realize it, but you approve minutes from the prior meeting. So at a sunshine meeting, there must be minutes taken. And once they're taken, they have to quickly be transcribed, and they have to be made available and open for public inspection. So, going back to what Barbara was saying earlier, so that the scope of the Sunshine Law basically is any meeting, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the word meeting, between two or more members, and here's a key word, of the same board, when discussing matters that may, and here's another buzzword, foreseeably come before that board. Okay, so we're going to focus a little bit on those key words. Meeting, same board, foreseeable. Those are very, very important terms that I want you to keep in your mind. So how about meetings? Well, typically, yeah, this is a meeting, right? It's been advertised and it's a very traditional. But what about a phone call? Can that be viewed as a meeting? And the answer is yes. Phone call and even text messages and emails going back and forth between two members, again, of the same board, can be viewed has been viewed as a meeting. And also informal discussion. So maybe if we had a break in our meeting today and two of you walked over and you started chit-chatting about something, that could be viewed by some as a meeting because it's two people from the same board talking about something that is before that board. That's the criteria. So the question then would be, two or more members of the same board. So could you have a conversation with one of our elected officials? Let's just use the mayor, since he's not here, right? Could you talk to him?
Yes.
Absolutely, because he's not a member of your board. What about foreseeable items to come before you? So sometimes it's hard to tell if something's going to come, but I mean, Jeff, you have a good, you usually kind of let them know, I think, at at this meeting kind of what's coming down the road at the next meeting. So you can be aware of that. That way, if you are in a someplace outside of a traditional meeting, like let's say you're at the grocery store and someone comes to you and starts talking to you, one of your other board members comes to you and starts talking to you about, I don't know, what, playground equipment? Perhaps at that time, there's nothing on your agenda about playground equipment, but in the future, it's foreseeable that playground equipment might fall within the purview of what your duties and responsibilities are. So you probably shouldn't be talking about that. Now, what about if you see each other and you know that Betty had a great pecan pie over Thanksgiving? Could you talk to her about that recipe? Absolutely. Now, I will caution you, however, that if Barbara and Betty are over in the corner and they're talking, how do we really know what they're talking about? Is it that recipe or is it the playground equipment?
Oh.
You know, we really don't, right? So I kind of discourage those of you on the same board for having conversations that might appear to be a discussion of matters that might foreseeably become before. And you might be saying, oh, now this is getting ridiculous. So what you could do is you could pull in Jeff or Amy or myself. We could just stand there and listen and say, yeah, it takes 3 cups of pecans, you know, to make that pie. So those are the things I just want to let you keep in mind.
I have a
Now-
question.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's my understanding that we can speak to like Jeff or Karen, for instance, freely because they're not technically members, even though they sit in our meetings. Is that correct?
So Karen is ex officio.
Okay.
I would be
Okay.
a little cautious with Karen, but
little
with
shady.
Jeff,
Okay.
I'm
shady.
I think you read my notes because the next topic I was going to bring up was, well, what about Jeff and what about Amy? Because they're sitting at the dais or our tables just as you are. And the answer is yes, you can have free conversation with them unless you go to Jeff and say, hey, Jeff, you know, this issue's kind of, I'm not sure what to do on this issue. And do you know how Joy's going to vote on that? You know? And Jeff cannot have himself, nor can Amy or I, in a position where we're what's called a conduit. So although you're not having direct communication one to the other, you're using us as a third party to kind of get that message out there. Well, what about the newspaper? So I have a real opinion on this playground equipment. So I'm going to tell the newspaper, and then I know that every other member of my board is going to read that newspaper, and they're going to know how I feel about something. Well, the newspaper's the newspaper, and it's open to everyone. So that would be okay, but I would not say something like, and I hope the rest of my board agrees with me, or I think there's a majority of my board that agrees with me, because then the question would be, well, how do you know that? You know, and you shouldn't be making, you know, false statements.
What about things that are in the public domain, like the pricing, you know, sheet that came out on Facebook? So if I wanted to say something to Barbara about these prices, it's open to the public.
I would not talk to Barbara about that because, as you can see, it's before you today. So even though it's public, I would still not make that dialogue outside of a public meeting. If you're in the public meeting and you can say, Barbara, I saw this on Facebook, what do you think? It's okay because we're in the middle of a public meeting. Another little, and I hate to say it, but I am going to go ahead and say it. An issue that comes up is, let's say that 2 of you attend an LPA meeting. They have public meetings, they're an appointed body, right? And then, Joy, you get up and you make an argument on behalf of a particular project saying that, yeah, this is a good project and I think our board would would approve it because for some reason it's coming to your board for comment or whatever. And then, Becky, I'll cite you. You're also in the audience, but you disagree with Joy. So the minute she sits down, you stand up and you go to the mic and you make a contrary argument. That is not permitted, because basically you're using that meeting as an opportunity to talk, two members of the same board, about an issue that's reasonably foreseeable to come before you. So I discourage that. The Sunshine Law can be, it can be abused by some people, and it will make your life very, very difficult. So I proceed on a very cautious note. I have so many other issues and things to handle in my life that I don't want to be brought into some kind of Sunshine Law charge or complaint or being a witness to something. So I really encourage you to be very cautious, because in the event there is a Sunshine Law violation, it's going to zap your time, your energy, and possibly even some of your money. So we try to have trainings like this to really avoid that situation. Now, Joy, you mentioned that you saw this really great thing on the Facebook page, and you really want your other members to be able to have that in advance of the meeting, and you're aware of the Sunshine Law, so you don't want to violate it. What you could do is you could contact Amy, and you could ask her to distribute it, or Jeff, not leaving you out, to distribute it to all the board members. And however, once as a board member, you receive it, don't reply all, or don't comment about it. Hold your thoughts until the meeting, and then discuss it openly and freely here. So if you do run across articles or other good information or something you want to bring up at the meeting, always funnel it through Amy or through Jeff, and then we can put that on the agenda. And that's called one-way communication. Yes, ma'am.
To that point, thank you for bringing that up. When Jeff, for example, sends out the fact that we've maybe canceled the meeting for whatever reason, we have to reschedule, that goes out as a blanket email to everyone, not as a blind copy, but to everyone. But what is happening, and I've seen it both with CellCab and BORCAB, is that everybody responds to all,
Yep,
saying,
that's a
"Oh,
big
I can't
problem."
make it." Right?
Yep.
So what are your suggestions to Jeff to keep that from happening?
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Blind copying is our friend.
Yes, I agree. And normally, like when I send out the agendas, I do the blind copy. I think yesterday, for instance, it was such a quick decision. I maybe just put it in the wrong.
Yeah, and that way, even blind copying everybody, even if you push reply all, it's only going back to Jeff
That's-
or something like
Yeah,
that. or
and
whoever
I think that's sort of a fail-safe thing, because
Yeah, I try to
yesterday.
do blind copy. Whenever I can. Sometimes I make a mistake.
Right,
and it
okay,
goes the
good.
other
I
way.
think that was adding to some confusion among new advisory board members. Again, this was more of a CellCab question, but it certainly is applicable here too.
Absolutely. And I think it's Sarah, or it might be another staff member. They actually put "do not reply all" to this email at the bottom in bold, just kind of as a reminder. Now, we brought up Facebook, and everybody has friends on Facebook, but Facebook is not your friend. Because Facebook, let's say hypothetically, Amy and I are on the same board, and we are friends with Jeff, and Jeff brings something up, and then I respond, and then Amy responds, and then I respond back, and there we go again, right? So that can be a problem. Perhaps I respond and Amy does not respond. That is probably okay, but it doesn't really look good. So just be careful who you're friends with. And again, 2 or more members of the same board, you should really avoid commenting on the same social media post. If the poster comments discuss matters that may foreseeably come before the board. Again, if it's going to be about that pecan pie, you know it's after lunch, and you know I haven't had my sweets yet, right? So it's pecan pies in the head. So that's kind of there. So as far as the sunshine, those are the basic parameters. Now, the legislature did create some exceptions to the sunshine law where you can meet in private. And those exceptions primarily relate to the elected officials. When there's litigation, when we are, perhaps, I don't think you have a union here, but if you had union negotiations, those would also be not done in the public. And think about it, it makes logical sense, right? If we're in the middle of some litigation and we're getting beat up and we want to tell our elected officials this is going to be our strategy to win and to mitigate costs, we're not going to say that in the public, right? So it kind of makes logical sense to not have those meetings in the public. The other thing is, one more thing on staff, you can't ask Jeff or Amy or me or anyone about, do you think that's going to pass? And do you know how many people are for it and how many people are against it? Polling, that's a typical word. You can't poll. And sometimes when people say poll, they don't really understand what that means, so I try to kind of give you a little example. So let's go back to the meetings. So this meeting room hits the criteria. The criteria is it has to be accessible to the public. Yep, doors are open, they can come. Has to be adequate size. So think about it. You know, you don't want to have a meeting in a tiny, tiny room where you're going to have a lot of people that are really interested in knowing what's going on, but the fire marshal says they can't enter that building because it's just too small. And you cannot discriminate or restrict the access. That puts a damper on having meetings at restaurants and at private homes. And you might say, well, why? Come on, a restaurant's open to the public. Because a member of the public could go and feel that they're compelled. Everybody's buying a lunch or buying a drink. So that means now if I want to watch that meeting, I have to buy something, and I'm really not ready to do that. Now, what about if someone shows up and they have a camera or a microphone? Can they videotape you? Can they do a recording of you? The answer is yes. However, they cannot be disruptive to the meeting. If they do become disruptive, then for purposes of orderly conduct, we can ask them to, very professionally and kindly ask them to not disrupt our meeting. So back in the, like around 2013, there was a new addition to the Sunshine Law because, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of case laws because Sunshine Law has been around a long time. But in 2013, there was a change made by the legislature to require public comment. And so for that reason, on your agenda, you have public comment in 2 places. And you also have a 3-minute time limit. And that is okay, because it is part of having a productive and efficient meeting. Just like, again, the disruptive person, you might have the opportunity to ask them first to stop and then to leave if they're going to continue to disrupt your meeting. And so by not having a cap on the time limit of people, I mean, the meeting could drag on and on and on, especially if you have a whole bunch of people, which I'm sure Karen's used to, right, at some of your meetings. And there are a couple exceptions for public comments that you don't have to take if they're more like administrative in nature. The public doesn't really have too much that they can say about it. Also, if there's a large group from, say, a condominium or a neighborhood, you could ask that, there's 10 people that are all going to talk about the hole that's in the road. Could you please appoint a representative, and then that person could address on behalf of the group.
Are you going to talk about the friends of Bay
The
Oaks, like,
501(c)(3)s.
yeah.
What about them?
Well,
I don't know
I'm
that much
curious
about them.
it's on our agenda, right? Mm-hmm. But, so if I wanted to talk to Barbara about, Friends of Bay Oaks and say, when are we going to meet? What are we going to do? In other words, talk about it. Can I do that?
What, I think the clarification here is, and it's the same for SOCAB. So both the Mount House and Bay Oaks have a 501c3 Friends organization, and they have their own board of directors. And we, of course, here are on a very small island with very few people, fewer now because of Ian. So there are people that serve on the Friends board who also serve on the advisory board. And so they are a fundraising entity and an advocacy group, and they're charged with projects and concerns.
So if the two of you are serving on this other board together, you should not, at this meeting, talk about anything dealing with the other board. The other board is a 501c3. It's not a public entity, but I would strongly discourage you from doing that. Those issues should be addressed at that meeting. Let's stay focused on what issues are before you today at this meeting, and which issues are foreseeable to come before you as this body and this board.
I think
Let's
part of
not
the
mix them
problem
up.
is it gets blurry, because when you go down to the Friends of Bay Oaks meeting, then you're discussing Bay Oaks, and so then it kind of blends in with what we could possibly be discussing here.
I will take it under advisement. One way that has been handled in the past in other communities is to go ahead and advertise, and basically you're having a joint meeting.
So then all of us would need to be part of Friends of Bay Oaks as well, or not necessarily?
No, you just, as on tomorrow, the town council and the LPA, they're having a joint meeting. So both of those
got you.
groups it's been advertised, and there'll be minutes that reflect, and it's in a room that's open to the public. It hits that criteria. So that's one way to try to address that. But let me talk further with Jeff and Amy about that after this
Yeah,
meeting.
and
'cause-
the intentions of both are separate. They're the Friends of Bay Oaks, let's say, is a fundraising entity that does support Bay Oaks, but they are not part of the town or making any decisions for the town or recommendations. Where BORCAB, we can request funds from them, and that's how we do that. We'd set forth a budget and say, hey, could we, is it possible to do this for next year, or get money for this for next year? And their board can approve that to give us money, but we try to keep that very separate.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
one is not, the friends of anything around here are not policymakers. They don't recommend to the council. They're fundraising to support Bay Oaks and the programming, but
I would just be cautious as far as the dollar amounts, because whether to accept or reject a dollar amount, or how you're going to finance the purchase of that playground equipment, that would be within this board. Your, conversation, you should not have it outside when two of you are present.
That's kind of what we were assuming, but there was never any legal precedent that we were aware of that allowed for that position. So, for example, we have on the agenda a Friends of the Bay Oaks, say, report, maybe not on this one, but on our, well, yes, it is, the Friends
on
of Bay
here.
Oaks report. So I think the way to try and avoid any kind of conflict was for us to suggest that if you are a member of the advisory board, you can't be a board member of the nonprofit organization, because that's a decision-making body, as is this one. And so
That
make
that
it-
is a good strategy. I would endorse that, just to keep you away from any issues, which, again, you must be reading my notes, because the next item I want to talk about are penalties. So what happens if you find yourself basically accused of some type of sunshine violation? And the Florida law says anyone who knowingly violates the Sunshine Law is guilty of a misdemeanor of the second degree. And as I mentioned earlier, do you really want to spend the time, the energy, the money trying to defend that, no, it was not a sunshine violation. We were not talking about anything that's foreseeable to come before me. Now, if there is an unintentional violation, it can have a civil penalty up to $500. Now, I want to give you an example, and I really appreciate your questions because what it tells me is that you are, one, you're knowledgeable of the basic requirements, and two, you're concerned because you don't want to knowingly violate. And I think that that's very, very important. But I want to give you an example of things that happen on the other side of the state. And this was in the, I think it's the city of Sebastian. They had, a couple of years back, they had some council members that were not really in agreement with one another, and they had some concerns and issues with their town manager. And there was supposed to be a meeting, and for whatever reason, the town manager had to cancel the meeting. And those elected officials, they got on the phone and they called each other, and they're like, by God, we're going to have that meeting. I don't care. And one of them had a key to a room, and they went in and they basically held a meeting. And some residents saw what was going on, called the law enforcement. Law enforcement came, they immediately dispersed. But while they were together, they fired the town manager, they fired, or the city manager, the city attorney. They took a vote, and they changed who the mayor was going to be. I mean, was that city business? Yes. Did they get in trouble? Oh, yeah, they got in a lot of trouble.
I'm sure.
They're no longer elected, and I think there was some criminal cases, and I don't know the final. But I just use that as kind of an example of the extreme. And again, I commend you for being sensitive to some of these issues. The other question I wanted to throw out to you is, so who is the Sunshine Law enforcer? Is it Amy? Is it Jeff? Is it Nancy? Who's going to go and say, you should not be doing that? We might say that, but the enforcer is the state attorney's office, because the potential penalty is a criminal one. And I will tell you that there will be a concern that two members of the same board or body were discussing something, and that would be a complaint or a concern raised by perhaps a resident, perhaps even a staff member or a fellow board member. You never really know. And that would be raised with the state attorney, and they would look at it and probably send out an investigator, and then there you go. There's your time, your emotions, your money. And it gets really super, super bad. So we try to avoid that by trainings like this. I'm available for questions on the Sunshine Law. But before I stop, and I've already gone on pretty long, I do want to mention briefly about public records. That was not on your agenda. But you need to know that basically, just like the public has a right to come to a meeting like this, they have a right to see what kind of written documents you have that relate to public business. And again, it's the right of access. So I want to give you just a couple examples of what public records could include. It could be, papers, letters, maps, books, tapes, photographs, films, sound recordings, data processing software. Regardless of the physical form that's being used as a means of transmission in connection with official business by any agency. So the ones that usually come up that people might not be aware of is emails. All your emails are pretty much public record if it relates to public business, town business. The rule of thumb is don't write anything in an email that you don't want to see in the newspaper. Text messages, same thing, voicemail. And those emails have to really be to perpetuate, formulate, or communicate knowledge. So it's the sharing of ideas. There are a lot of exceptions for public records, things that are not available to the public, such as social security numbers, bank account, protected health information, bid responses for a limited time, security systems. But, and I want to leave you with this, there is no exception for embarrassing emails, okay? So be careful what you write. Emails are easy to type up and hit that send button. And, I really can't believe that meeting was so long. Why did Amy prepare the agenda so long? And then the next thing you know, it's circulated, and now Amy's a star, and she's all upset, and, so just be careful. Don't try not to make those comments. Now, what about the telephone? Can you pick up the telephone and make a call? Absolutely. Is your telephone call public record? Well, the fact that you called is, but what you said, unless there's a recorder going somewhere, is probably not. So anyway, I promised you I would be quiet. Does anybody have any last questions? Great. All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Very thorough,
Yeah.
appreciate that, yes.
The update is always very helpful, so I appreciate that. Okay, well, that brings us to our staff liaison report with Jeff.
Yes, so
think
since
we're
we've
all
met, there's
anxious
been
to hear from
a
you.
lot going on. As you can tell, we're finally have access to our Bay Oaks facility.
Oh, it's
Um,
wonderful.
The gym and the weight room will be open on Tuesday, which is great. We still only have a TCO, which we're trying to get. We have it scheduled for Friday to get the actual CO, and then we have full reign over everything. So right now we just are still working on a few things, some things in the restrooms, getting some cages up on the strobes in here for the fire, couple electrical things, but really we're ready to go. We're ready to go for Tuesday, which will be amazing. So our hours, just so everyone knows, is going to be Monday through Friday now, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We are working at getting additional staff in place so where we can be open on Saturdays. But for right now, it's Monday through Friday. And then obviously we're closed any holidays, any major holiday, federal holidays. So yeah, we'll have pickleball in here. We'll have basketball, weight room, new cardio equipment is here, set up, ready to go. So we'll be right on track with that. Fitness classes we'll be having in here as well. So stay tuned. Check our Facebook post. We'll have it on our website to when those are.
This says daily for pickleball outside.
The outside courts are always available to play as long as the facility is open. Usually it's dusk to dawn kind of thing. So they're open outside. You don't have to have a membership to play out there. It's first come, first serve.
Oh, I see. So indoor is Monday through Friday, 10:30 to 1:30.
Correct.
I see.
Yep. And there is a cost to that, which I'll go over here in a second. But the outside courts, just so people listening and so you all know, it is a shared space. It's a basketball court too. So if you come and there's a group playing full court basketball game, well, they got here first. They have precedent over that at that time. Same with pickleball. We can't just kick somebody off the court and say, I want to play basketball. There's times and it is open to the public, and we don't reserve those courts outside. So that's done. The tennis courts are not ready for play yet. For sure, even before the hurricane, we were looking at doing updated courts because there's some cracking in there. It is on one of our lists. It is on the list to look at and refurbish. But we're trying to go priority-wise, and obviously this was a big one. The baseball fields are also a big one. The pool's a big one, and I'll get to that pool in just a little bit.
What is all the concrete out here?
The concrete that's out on. So that is.
Yeah, it's like the pieces.
Yeah, so if you come down and you see out in the field where the old playground equipment was, there's a bunch of concrete. It's a much cheaper option for fill. So when they said
Okay.
we start raising that up, because we want to raise it up for the new ball field for drainage and just because it floods out there, they're going to crush up that concrete and use it for fill.
Oh, okay.
That's just another way to do it, and then they'll put topsoil on top. So right now, people on the island are bringing us their concrete.
Well,
Looks like a mess,
It's
but
getting
they are.
used though. That's
It is
good.
going to be recycled and
Yes,
used,
yes.
and it's a great option to have because they
Yeah.
don't have to truck it off. It's cheaper for us,
And it gets it off their land.
and it gets it off their land. So we'll be looking for quite a bit of concrete.
Okay.
So yeah, youth programs we have had the summer we were at Mound House. We just opened for the kiddos here at Bay Oaks for the after school program and for non-school days. So the holiday break, they were in here playing, having a good time. So that's being used by them, and then for sure after school programming is going on, which they were back to school yesterday. So they were in here, and they'll be here this afternoon and every school day after that.
So y'all just go pick them up, right? You walk over
Yeah,
there?
we either walk or we'll drive and go pick them up. Yep, they don't have to go through the concrete.
Yeah, you know.
So yeah, youth programming is going on. Boss programming is also going on. The Bay Oaks Social Seniors, they're actually on a trip right now. They're bike riding, so that's we're getting that back and going. Danielle is working on that as well. So we're going to try to do 4 boss trips a month if we can. So if you're looking to sign up for boss, you can head to our website or give us a call down here. That's kind of Bay Oaks, the area for now. We're actually looking at getting for youth athletics. We're looking at getting t-ball going, possibly, and soccer if we can get it on the small field, at least for the younger ones, to get it on the field and really utilizing that field for a lot of other things. So we'll have, like I said, we'll have indoor basketball here, open gym, pickleball, volleyball, and kind of whatever else the public wants us to run as far as programs go.
Are we doing basketball with the kids or not yet?
Yeah, it's in the works. It's
Okay.
part of the youth and teen programming.
Yeah.
We will
What's your
start that back
timeline
next
for
week.
the swimming pool?
Huh?
The swimming pool, like, do you have a estimated timeline, or?
I do
what-
not. It needs to go out for bid. We were trying to go with a company, but all things it came down to was FEMA requires us to go out for RFP if it's over $25,000. It's not 3 bids, it's an RFP. So we can't just call up 3 pool companies and come out like we thought we could and get three quotes. We need to put it out for bid, which is the whole process.
Right, so you have to create the RFP.
And the scope, yep. And then we have to go out, it's got to be out there for 30 days. And then they have another, 30 days to sign the contract, usually depending on the contract. And then procurement can start, and then we can start that. So the RFP, we're hoping to get it out next week if we can get a scope. It's a matter of when we can get a scope from a company, depending on what our scope wants to be. Now, we'd like to put it all out for bid, where they do all of the electrical, all the buildings, the pump room, the pool, the slide, the chairs, the structures. That's going to be kind of hard to come by. I think you'd have to have somebody really specific to do that. So we'll see how that goes and what we get back.
Jeff, what budget has the town set aside for the complete renovation and repair of that pool, including all those things you just mentioned?
Yeah, I don't know a number right now. I mean, we had some insurance money. We're not quite sure what FEMA is going to give us back yet, so we don't know kind of what to budget for. We want to put it back, let's just say, as it was. So if we go to somebody and say, can you write a scope for us, just as it is, what would it cost us? And we didn't even get that far yet. So we don't have a budget per se to put that back because we don't know what we're getting back from FEMA even yet.
So what kind of time frame are you thinking of with regard to FEMA's response?
It's hard to say. They do give us cost estimates for the different sites. We are going back to FEMA right now. They did give us one, extremely low, so we're having them re-review it. So
So assuming that FEMA can come up with money, and obviously the town's going to be setting aside some money for the, getting the pool open and in good repair, do you have a budget established for that beyond the FEMA contribution? In other
We
words,
have
what
our-
did the town commit to?
Oh, we have our standard budget, which is the staffing and the supplies and all of that, but we haven't even, it's gonna go out for RFP, and we'll have to put a dollar amount to it.
You do, that's right, because you can't do an RFP or even an RFQ without a budget in place in advance, right?
Not really. We can set a limit, say we set a limit for, let's just say, okay, let's just throw it out there, a low number, $10 to rebuild the pool. Now, if we get bids for, $10,000, we would have to then go out and rebid it because it wasn't within our cost. But yeah, we'll have to have some kind of rough estimate of what that's gonna cost.
So we don't currently have that figure yet.
Not fully, we have it for the pool, kind of, but the pool is not really all encompassing as far as what we need for the facility, if that makes any sense. We approximately know how much the pump room equipment will cost, depending on the company, what the resurfacing of the pool, just to put it back the way it is. We do know that even pre-hurricane, it was shut down for like a week before because our pump room
Right.
was not working correctly, we'll just say. So there are improvements we would like to make in addition to that, like the shade structures and the umbrellas and, the building, the concession area. So it's really going to come down to us really putting the numbers down, and FEMA can help us with that. We just haven't gotten that number back yet.
So you have a very successful summer program working with the kids from around Lee County that come to use that pool. Do you have any kind of schedule for meeting that need for this summer?
We don't have a timeline for the pool, just to know that we're working on it, and we've talked about RFP, and we are going to go that route. I know working with the clerk's office and community development, working with a plan to get the RFPs out. We're working with actually Nancy and the attorney to do more of a standardized scope work, so we can get those out a lot quicker. Right now, we're end up just writing them up as we go. They have a template we can use, and hopefully they were reviewing that, I think, this week and next week, so hopefully we can get that out.
Maybe this is a question for Karen. With regard to council, what are their thoughts in terms of getting this pool up and running? Is that a priority for the council, do you think?
Yes, it's been talked about a lot. It's just the whole process that, we thought we could just go through, get all these estimates be done. No, now we have to go back, we have to do all the RFP. So until all this comes in, it won't go back to council or anything like that for even scope or anything. So I know Andy talks to each one of us individually every week at our meetings and what's being thought of and what are the new thoughts on how it should look or what's design, all that kind of thing. But with FEMA, it's kind of tricky because with FEMA, they will only reimburse you for exactly what it was.
What it was.
Same issue we're having for the pier with Lee County. They will only do exactly what it was. So that has to be decided first. Then if you want to change anything, then that's the budget number that you have to come up with. So you'll have the FEMA reimbursement, but then if you want to do anything different, that comes out of us. So until we get to even that part to see what we get from FEMA, what kind of money do we have left to do?
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Part of that FEMA process is they call mitigation. So we'll get hopefully what it's going to take to build it back. Now that number sometimes comes in low, and then we have to kind of dispute it. And then we have the other part of FEMA is mitigation. So they'll put the pump room back the way it is, but we know that it needs to be raised up. And that's part of mitigation is how much can they give us more money to try to help if we do get some more flooding or when we get more flooding or a hurricane, how can we protect that equipment? so they don't have to pay again. So
And
there's,
wouldn't that be something that FEMA would encourage
They do for
the
mitigation.
municipality to do
yes,
for, future
yep. So-
hurricane issues?
Yeah, because when they come for a site inspection, let's just say the pool, they bring their inspector, they bring EPA, they bring the mitigation. So all of them walk around together. So they're always making notes. But the first step is getting back to where it was before. And, the way the pool was, every cracked tile, every, thing like that, they go and say, was that part of the hurricane? They make that judgment call. So just because it maybe something wasn't in good repair to begin with, via the slide, for instance, they said
was
a lot
perfect.
of that damage. Yeah, the slide was perfect.
Or even the pump room itself?
Yeah, well, it wasn't caused by the hurricane, so they're not going to give us a whole lot of money
Right.
to replace that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So we're gonna
absolutely.
we're trying to figure out those
I think we've
costs.
all gone through this with our personal
Exactly,
residences.
exactly.
so-
We certainly
have.
Right?
I do have a question about the flooding,
Yeah.
and I'm sure this has been discussed, and honestly, I just cannot remember. Since Ian, has the pool flooded at all? Like when Adalia came through and there was water on the ball fields, was there water in the pool? Like my pool personally has flooded twice since Ian.
No, and actually, if you look at it, the pool's at a kind of a higher angle.
Okay, because that does make a, like you were talking about raising the pool equipment up, which obviously you want to do, but like how many times, like every time our pool floods, we have to drain the pool and
Yeah,
refill
no,
it. It's- I mean, it's a
we
process.
have water in there just from rain, but
Yeah.
no, I don't think the flooding got in there
Okay.
at that point. So. But we have been trying to pump it out as much as we can.
Right. Well, that salt
Okay.
water just makes a big difference in
Yeah,
the pool.
yeah. Any other questions about the pool? I know everyone's been asking. That's
I know.
the biggest thing I get in my emails and phone calls is the pool. I'm sure Karen maybe is the same
Yep.
way. Yes, I would like it open too. I want it open as soon as we can. Yes.
I think the pool is just something people don't understand all the background that needs to be done because it's just like open your pool, like fix
For a
it.
commercial
you
pool,
know?
yeah, and it's not just the
Right.
pool, it's the facility.
Right.
So
Yep.
we need to have working restrooms, we need to we
Exactly.
have showers in there, we have electrical that needs to be completely redone, and which a lot of people do know. I mean, it's nothing new to people on the island. It's stuff they've been dealing with too. It's just when you talk about commercial and municipalities, there's a couple extra steps sometimes, which we'd rather not do that, but we have to follow the guidelines as well. So the weight room, I guess, yeah, I can talk about that, Karen. It is going to be open. Our membership pricing went out yesterday, the day before, on Facebook, and it's on our website, I believe, Nicole, right? Website, yeah. So just to go over this real quick, just in case anybody's, those of you that are listening, not in case anybody's listening. So for an individual, I don't know if you remember, in 2022, BORCAB and the council recommended and approved that residents now will be paying a little bit. So before it was free, now they'll be paying. So annually for an individual, for if you're a resident, is $60. If you want to just get a 6-month one, if you're just here, maybe you're just down here for the season, you can get a 6-month one for $40, as opposed to a non-resident, and that's anybody that doesn't pay taxes, a non-resident, anybody that doesn't pay taxes on the island. I know some of the addresses say Fort Myers Beach over on San Carlos Island. Those, they're not considered residents. You have to be a tax-paying resident of the island. An annual one is $120, and a 6-month is $75. And we do have family plans, non-resident family plans, day passes, those kind of things too. Any questions about the fees? Pickleball? Yeah.
So remember, we went
Yeah.
back and put a sharper pencil to these, so the original fees that were suggested, we said no.
Yes,
We went back
I
and
remember
we
that.
put a sharper pencil to it. So this is what was that sharper pencil. And then when we went through the budget, again, when the council went through the budget for, at the end of 2023, going into 2024, these fees stayed. So nothing was changed from what we had put a sharper pencil to and approved.
After you did the.
After we did that.
Great, that's wonderful.
So if you own property on the island, then you're considered a resident, right? It's not like some of the other ones.
Yep. Yep. You own property.
You're paying the property taxes, then it counts.
Yep.
There is a fee for pickleball, $5 for a resident or a member. or $10 for a non-resident or non-member. Now we are going to do punch cards. We're working out that right now to make it a little easier, and you get a little bit of a discount if you buy the punch card. That more to come. We were just talking about that this morning. To utilize that, but all the equipment and weight room equipment, the cardio equipment, brand new. I think some of our staff maybe have tested it out, but other than that, it's brand new. So it's good equipment like we were looking for before the hurricane. We were actually doing that. So we got that in
Great.
as the public wanted. So we are actually offering, though, come back, check us out, see the weight room equipment till the end of February. You can come in, try it out, and then after that, once March hits, then we will be having paid memberships. So, yeah, so that's we're trying to get that back up and running.
In addition to the pickleball, what about the various fitness classes? What are they per class? Same charge?
It'll depend on the instructor, whatever the instructor has it at.
Okay.
So we'll have those prices out. I know Danielle is working on that right now to get a number of them. Spin, I think yoga, step,
Body pump, I think I saw.
body pump, yeah. So we'll have a list out very soon. We're
Okay.
hoping to get the CO, and then we'd get all that information out and start immediately. So that is we're talking hopefully by the end of the week, but
That's fantastic.
maybe the end of next week to get our CO, and then we'll start all of our programming 100%.
That's
So you're going to
wonderful.
have a membership and a non-membership class fee, right?
The classes will be one fee, so whether say it's $10 to do spin. It just depends on if you're a member, you don't pay to get in. If you're a non-member, you'll have to pay.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah,
got you.
the day
Gotcha.
pass to get in.
Yep.
So, yeah. So there is a huge cost savings if you become a member.
Yep.
If you do a lot of classes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm kind of going long, but we haven't talked for a while. I know I gave the report out, and I'll try to get that out in an email. I'll make sure to do that. But we've had some changes, and I don't know since when. But Nicole Berzin is our new campus manager. I know we probably talked about that before. Danielle Felton, who was in charge of the BOSS programs. Felton. How do you say? I don't even. DeBona. Sorry, she just got married. I apologize. Yes, I got to make a comment. Every time I even email her, I'm like, Danielle Felt. Oh, it's not.
Oh,
So she's not working with Andy anymore.
No, she's back with us. I love it. She's great for our program. She's our recreation supervisor, so she got a little bit of a jump there, which is great. She's been doing a fantastic job.
What does that entail, a rec supervisor?
In charge of the facility.
Okay.
Yep. So anything ordering. So the campus manager is in charge of everything. They're in charge of the pool. They're in charge of the grounds, kind of the whole thing in general. So then we have the rec supervisor who's in charge of the Oaks, and then the pool supervisor who's in charge of the pool. So those are the differences. Jimmy Amelia, who's been here forever, he's the youth and teen coordinator. Jimmy Amelia the third. Yeah, Jimmy D'Amelia is also our public works, which is his dad. So Jimmy D'Amelia the it's like an outdoor, sounds really generic, but an outdoor like foam that they can encase. That looks really nice. I know a lot of places, well, actually the company I was researching is out of Minnesota. So even their weather, you know, they have these boards up. Yeah, so holds up. So there might be some better options. So we do have the sign hopefully going to be in production for that. The Bayside sign is going up this week. We do have to change the name on the sign, which is fantastic.
I love
To
it.
Bayside Veterans Park, which the
Yep,
council
Bayside
approved.
Veterans Park, perfect.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Per-
So,
Perfect.
and just so everyone knows, and I might have mentioned, I think I talked about this in previous meetings, is the Parks and Rec Department is taking over a lot of those spaces. So Bayside Park, it's a park. We're in charge of all of that now. Times Square, we can have stuff down there, so Parks and Rec is doing a little more intense job of getting that and lit up. I'm actually going to go to council probably next time, and we want to put up some the patio style lights around Times Square to light it up. It might look cool coming over the bridge, more inviting. You know, it'll give off some light until we can get
Nice.
actual lights down there. So, yeah, the restaurants down there kind of have them already, but yeah, they're just the bulbs that we can. I ordered the poles already just because we got a good deal on them that we can put around the ball field if we need to, but. Hopefully they'll go for it where we can put in, I think, 8 poles and then just string the bigger patio lights, more industrial, around Times Square. I think,
Sounds good.
yeah, cafe lighting, yeah. So it should look good.
What about the street access off of Cerro? Is that open already, or is it, because I was told that if we come to Bay Oaks, we have to come down School Street.
No, it's open. It was
It is
closed
open.
for a week or two because we have our new town hall trailers that were
Right.
staged there.
Right.
But no, it is open now. It is open.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, so we can drive down that. I mean,
Yes.
that'll be an experience.
Yes, that is open,
Is that it?
unless I have more questions.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's
You.
move on, and obviously Jesse is not here, so we don't have a report for that. The other item that we had on here was the discussion of the beach accesses. Unfortunately, I have to leave in about 5 minutes, and so that's going to mess up.
Well, yeah, and yeah, we can table that if we want. We don't have access to the beach accesses right now until the state gets done with their work. So we
Okay.
do have a little bit of time before the signs are going to go up, and any improvements will be happening. I mean, it is a good discussion to have for sure because we want to beautify those. And I don't know a timeline on when we're going to get the okay to start.
If we can table that to our February meeting?
Yeah, John did send out, and I included it in the packet, probably in your last page, some reimagining beach accesses, which is good. And so we can maybe look this over. John, if you're available, if you want to just say a few things about what you found, maybe real quick.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Not really.
Okay, sorry. It's been a challenge hearing everything, but I think I'm good. That proposal that I put together is pretty thorough. It's maybe just a little more formal of what I have ranted about in a meeting or two about getting some welcome fitness equipment at the beach accesses. And I think it's a worthy project to at least discuss while we're in this interim before we can act.
Well, I think the proposal is very
That was really all I had
exciting,
to say.
John.
I do too.
Since we're probably going to be
Yes.
tabling this,
Indeed.
then, I just asked the group to look over what I wrote.
Yeah, it's a really terrific proposal, and I thank you for putting it together and sharing it with
Yes.
us.
Indeed.
How many beach accesses do we have on the island? Do we know?
I honestly don't know. Good question.
I should know because I drive south every day and I can't remember the last number. No, I'm at like 15. So there's definitely past us. I just can't remember how many there
I'll try
are.
to look that up.
Yeah, I was just curious. I could pay when I go that way tonight. I
Yeah.
can look, but
That's a good question. A lot of them.
29.
Thank you, Nicole.
Well, thank you.
29.
Thanks
Yeah, and I think that might be a tough,
29?
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and right now the plan is, just a very preliminary plan, is getting the bike racks back in. I think we can do that at any point. I don't think we need to get the okay for those, but I'll check with Chad Schutz, our environmental manager who's in charge of that project, and see if we can get those out. Because I know that bike racks in general in the town is a big thing. Getting those back out. Restrooms is also a big thing. For us, we do have restrooms at Palm Avenue. We're going to hopefully be getting them at Newton here, because we'll get it back in May. So we're working with FP&L to get the drop of electricity there and get that part rolling, so we don't have to wait for it this time. So that's in the works to do that.
I know there's even like we had a little bridge that's gone now, like at our beach access. Like there was it's just a mess right now. Not just the bike rack.
Yeah,
It's hard to even like walk through. It's all
they're
roped
redesigning,
off.
I think, some of them with the beach access and the beach renourishment. So hopefully we can address those.
Okay. Well, let's continue on. Is there anything, member items and reports at this time?
Yes, I have something. This is Joy Sullivan. So I was respectfully asking if there's a way that we can get a heads up as the advisory board for things that are going to go public. I felt a little flat-footed, to be honest with you, because the item about pickleball went out on Facebook and I didn't even know about it. And so I don't know how to make that happen, but I was a little embarrassed because I guess I felt like I was a representative of Bay Oaks, you know, and I didn't know about it. So anyway,
Agreed.
I
And to be-
know,
and-
I understand you all have, it's your staff, it's your job, and I get that, and I appreciate it. I really do, and I was thrilled when, we saw the developments going, and I don't know if you can give us information ahead of time, but it would be really nice if we knew, even if it was an hour ahead.
Yeah, and some of that, like we decided the day before it was clean enough, and we got the TCO to open. But some of those things, yeah, we'll try to be cognizant to send that out to the members as well.
I gotcha.
And-
But there are things that we have planned that are coming up, and I think regular meetings will definitely help that.
Yeah, we
And,
missed
and
that.
actually, I agree with Joy. I was a little surprised to see this on, in social media. And I think Beach Talk Radio had it before I did, which I think is pretty interesting. So, but I think perhaps, obviously this was, decision-making done well in advance. So it wasn't, this is not an issue that needed to come before Bay Oaks because we had addressed all of this, before
And
the
we'll
hurricane.
have another opportunity. I guess, Joy, you were asking about discussing like the fees. We'll have another opportunity to do that before it gets presented to council. So it just
Well, I'm
happened
not
this year. It was just
suggesting that,
status quo.
all I'm saying is a heads up.
Yeah.
That's all, for different items,
And I think to your point, Joy, perhaps before this goes out to the public or to our public information officer with the town, you could kind of do an email to all of us as advisory board members, just say this is going out to the public, just as an FYI. That would solve the problem of
Yeah.
our being notified before
Yeah.
the public is. I think that's just
Exactly.
sort of a courtesy for the advisory board that really should translate to other boards as well.
All right.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of it, I'll try to do my best to get
I
it out.
understand.
Some of it we don't even, like, the PIO will put out, and I won't even know it's coming out, Most of the time I do if it's our department related, but, yeah, I'll try to get that to you, and I'll work with Nicole, who's our acting PIO, while Jenny Dexter's, after she resigned, so between Nicole and I, we'll try to get the word out to you all. And I'm going to try to utilize Nicole and even Adam for CellCab a little more with our boards. It's just been a crazy time. I've taken on some extra responsibility. So I apologize if I'm not getting back to people in a timely manner. But I'm going to maybe put them more in charge of the advisory boards just for the administrative aspect of it.
Okay. I'm going to have to leave you unless we're finished. Our next meeting will be on the 9th. if we're going to stay on the first Wednesday of the month, if
Yeah.
we're going to continue that,
The 7th.
7?
it would be,
7th.
yeah, February 7th at noon. And would it be here?
Yes, I think we'll do it here.
Okay, we'll do it here. I think it's wonderful for us to be able to be
Actually-
here.
Might be in the new trailers. We have
Oh,
council chambers in there,
okay,
so everything will be all set up. Maybe by the 7th, hopefully by the 7th. So
That's
it might
fine.
be a TBD decision.
And I did ask
And we'll
Amy
have the,
if we could be more U-shaped. Honestly, I thought the meetings at the Mound House were especially, I don't know, more effective or better because we could see each other.
yes.
But when everybody's looking towards you, I
It's hard
just
to
feel
hear
like
everybody.
it's more of a meeting if we
Exactly.
can be U-shaped.
Yeah.
We can try, I know they'll have almost permanent chambers set up, like they did at the old ones, and then we
Yeah.
just sat at those desks. So I agree, it was a lot more cozy, we'll say.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
at the Mound House. It's just a matter of where the camera is.
I understand.
Right.
I
And
just,
And all the setup, so.
It'd be
There's
easier for
there's
us
some
to
stuff
hear.
that go into it besides just me saying it needs to be U-shaped, so
Yeah.
we'll try to get it a
but I
little,
think it
we
would
could
be
even
more
condense it a
effective
little
for
more.
everyone.
Yeah.
You know, not
Yeah.
just BORCAB, but the CellCab and
Yeah,
the MRF
Council.
and
I think that's a good point. Thank you.
Okay. Duly noted.
Okay, and we do have beach accesses on for our agenda.
How about redevelopment plans?
Pardon?
For an agenda item, the redevelopment plans?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
We were supposed to get those a while back. and
we
haven't-
still don't know what that looks like.
Oh, okay, because I
Um,
had a notation on here that we hadn't received them. You said you were going to send them out.
We
and,
don't know what
obviously
that's
you
gonna look
didn't have
like.
'em,
I,
or
I
you'd have sent them.
I think the intent, because we have so many new people on our Bay Oaks board, that at least if they had what we had come to in
Yeah.
terms of progress from the old plan, will give them at least a frame of reference to
Yes.
build on. And,
Yeah, I'll send those out.
I mean, we all had those as hard copies and we collected them, but, you know, with everybody else, I lost all of my
Yeah,
records.
and
in the
actually, everything
hurricane.
is on our webpage. Everything that I'm gonna send out is on our webpage. The plans, the outlooks, everything.
Original plan, okay, so how do you access that? Go into Bay Oaks or
Yep.
go into
I
council
believe
documents?
it's
What is
things
the
around town.
path?
Nicole, do you know
What
where
is
that
it?
sits? Where you look up like what's going on, the projects around town? Yeah. But I can certainly send it out. It'll just be the same ones that I send out.
Okay,
It is there. But I'll download them and put them in a document.
Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, but just be knowledgeable that that's probably not what it's gonna look like.
All right.
and I guess the strategic plan, where are we with that?
With BORCAB or Bay Oaks and the Parks and Rec, we haven't started that one.
Okay,
new one?
should that
An
be?
updated one?
Wasn't
can
that
also
to be
be-
on the agenda for
bet.
next month?
We can try. With the rec center opening up, I don't know if we'll have a staff copy,
A staff,
an updated copy of where the staff would like to go to, like we
right?
were doing with CellCab.
Well, so what are we doing with our strategic plan? What is the staff's plan with regard to updating?
We're gonna have to review it first. We haven't even gotten to that point. We've been dealing with the construction and getting this place open.
Right.
But we do need to get on that and look at the strategic plan, because
I
a
mean,
lot of
it
that
is-
that's on there is no longer applicable, or may not be applicable, depending on the direction of the council and the town manager.
I think one of the things that made Bay Oaks and council and staff all work as well together as we had in the past was the fact that we had our game plan fully vetted and reviewed, not only by staff, but by council and by BORCAB so that, you know, everybody knew the next step and who was responsible and what was the timeline.
Yeah, we can do
Without
a-
that strategic plan, we can't really even make a decision as to what our next agenda items will be.
I agree. We can do a short-term one. Long-term, I don't even want to venture a guess right now.
No,
Well,
that's
that would be
fine.
okay.
Yeah, we recognize, I mean, we've gone through a horrible disaster.
I mean, in the last
Absolutely.
6 months, we went from hopefully having a ball field done right now to having to go out for RFP now. I mean, things are just changing so fast. With all of our facilities, and we can do things like increase, memberships and increase programming and short-term, really short-term things like that. But as far as the long-term, it's going to be really hard.
Well, and it's not just the long term, it's the short term
Yeah.
too. So that we can maybe just focus on the short term for this next year.
Very
That's
beneficial.
perfectly appropriate.
That
Yeah.
would be wonderful.
You want to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, 3 months, 3 months worth at a time.
Becky didn't get her 2 cents in, but.
good.
Are you good?
Okay.
Okay.
Is everybody okay?
We're good.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move, Barbara Hill.
Barbara, and do we have a second?
I'll second you, Barbara.
Okay, good, thank you. Appreciate it. All in favor? Indicate by
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Meeting
Well,
adjourned
It's
at
just
what?
wonderful to be
1:20?
here.
Thank you so much, Betty. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jeff, does Camden do rec soccer? I mean, rec hockey?
Thank you.
That's the travel.
No, they,